Hi. In the previous video we learned that proteins are basically polypeptides, chains of amino acids. Now in order to be able to absorb dietary protein, we need to digest the polypeptides into individual amino acids, and that happens in our GI tract. So let's look at that in a little bit more detail. Now, unlike carbohydrates, there is no digestion of protein in the mouth. It only starts when the food reaches the stomach. And protein digestion is assisted by the high acidity of the stomach. And the very acid environment in the stomach causes the unfolding of proteins so that enzymes have easier access to it and can cleave it into smaller pieces. Now that digestion continues in the upper part of the GI tract, in the duodenum and the upper part of the small intestine, where further digestion is taking place. And digestion should be almost complete or by the time the food reaches the lower part of the small intestine. So absorption should be complete, and whatever remains will go into the colon and will leave the body undigested. And for protein, we assume that about 5% of the dietary protein leaves the body undigested in the stools. Now let's look a little bit more detail at what happens during protein digestion. I pointed out that protein digestion already starts in the stomach because there's an enzyme there called pepsin that breaks down dietary protein into smaller peptides, polypeptides. But digestion is not nearly complete. The food then reaches the small intestine, where two enzymes are added from the pancreas, and those enzymes are called trypsin and chymotrypsin. And what these enzymes do is they also cleave the polypeptide chain at specific amino acid sequences. So at the end you end up with smaller peptides. But digestion is still not complete. We still don't have individual amino acids. Now there are additional enzymes present in the small intestine, and there are two that I want to point out, and they're called carboxypeptidase and aminopeptidase. And what these two enzymes do is they cleave off individual amino acids at the two ends of the peptide. And at the end, you should end up with individual amino acids, which can then be absorbed into the bloodstream and be distributed throughout the body. Now, let's look at that in more detail. Imagine you've just eaten a protein-containing meal. Digestion of protein has occurred, and the amino acids are absorbed into the bloodstream. That are subsequently distributed to various parts of the body that need amino acids to synthesize body proteins. And an example of an organ that would need amino acids to make protein is the muscle. The muscle takes up substantial amounts of amino acids to make muscle proteins that are important for the functioning of the muscle cell. And the same is true for the liver. The liver also needs to take up substantial amounts of amino acids to make special liver proteins, including the main serum protein called albumin. Now, there are over 100,000 different proteins in our body. And proteins exert all different kinds of functions. And some of them are active outside the cell. We call that extracellular. They can function as hormones. They're important for keeping cells together. And other proteins are important inside the cell. They're so-called intracellular. So they're important, for instance, for generating fuel or for maintaining the structure of a cell, or for any other type of function we need protein. So therefore, it's very important that we eat substantial amount of protein to supply the amino acids in order to be able to synthesize the proteins that our body needs to function.